back, you guys, to another episode of Tank Chats. Today we are taking a look at the M46 Patton. One of my favorite main battle tanks, probably actually my favorite main battle tank in U.S. history, is the Patton series line. You go all the way from the M46 up to the M60s, although we're not categorized as it. It is still, I still call them, affectionately refer to them as a Patton. So today we're taking a look at the M46, and we're going to go through the history and the design of all of this back row right here. So without further ado, we'll hop into the history of the vehicle. All right, so hop into the history of this vehicle, guys. So these vehicles started being developed. There was a trial phase, so you can see this vehicle represents an M46 Pershing a lot. The only main difference really is they took basically a new hull, actually that was designed for the M47 Patton, which is the next variant of this, and the new turret was actually not ready. So basically they just slapped the Pershing turret on top of it and made it basically an M26A1 variant with the M3A1 90mm gun that had the bore evacuator on it. So that is how these kind of came about. So the hull was designed for the M47. It was designed, the main differences with the design is that you have this big bumper bump right here on the front hull and kind of the raised up ridge on the front hull, which would be used for better protection for the crew. This also had the mounted 30 caliber machine gun bracket that you would use for infantry support. More of the history on this vehicle. So when after these were developed, 1948, 1949, after about a couple months into Korea, they saw their first debut in combat service during the Korean War. They were outfitted to the Marine Corps and Army armor divisions. These were actually one of the least favored tanks of the Korean War. I love my M46, but the reputation and the combat statistics say that they fared well against T-34-85s, like the Russian main battle tanks, but a lot of them, because of the new hull and them kind of experimenting still with these, trying to develop them a little bit further, lead to a lot of breakdowns and more, instead of actual tank-on-tank kills, actually like mobility kills. So they would, like, the engine would burst, or there would be trouble with the transmission. But they were used effectively in Korea. By about the end of 1950, early 1951, 200 of these were in theater, which made up about 15% of the tank force that was in Korea at the time. You had a mix of M26s, the M4A3-8s, which we just did a video on. So you had the Easy 8 Shermans, you had the Pershings, and then mostly the Chaffies. Those were kind of your big major tank units that you had during the Korean War. And this was one of the backbones of it. As I said, it made up 15% of the combat vehicle tanks in the Korean theater. From 1950 to 1953, they served there and they were used in combat. After the Korean War, these were in service till about 1957. None of them were really exported except to a couple countries like France, Italy, and I think Germany for trial crew training when they were converting these actually to the M47, which we've done a video on before. So the M47 was basically just, they made the new turret for this and designed the M47 to make a kind of update more to go to that main battle tank doctrine. And the M47, along with this one, was actually one of the last main battle tanks to feature a ball-mounted 30 caliber machine gun into the hull. So that's the history on this vehicle, you guys. With that, we're gonna hop into the tour. All right, so hopping into the tour of this vehicle, guys. So the main distinctive feature I already kind of talked about in the beginning that distinguishes this from an M26 Pershing is this big rump right here for extra crew protection and basically kind of giving extra height and buffer space between the driver and the co-driver. So this had a crew of 5. You got a gunner, loader, driver, commander, and co-driver. Right here would be your co-driver spot / radio operator. He would have the ball-mounted 30 caliber right in here. This would be your driver spot. And another big feature that kind of you don't see too much on the Pershings, these were actually a bolted down Pioneer kit that were featured on the front of the M46s. You would have your pickaxe, your shovel, etc. in here for digging and entrenching and stuff like that. You got iron bolt lifting plugs right here and right here for railroad operations on ships, anything lifting over the crane, anything like that. You have brush guards here and here for your front drive lights. These ones are actually knocked out, but you have your front drive lights here. These will be your drive lights, and then you'd have your blackout mark as well. That is your horn over there, I believe, protected by another brush guard. You have these little pieces of metal going out to the fender, so basically just extra stability for the fender. And when you also want to attach the dust covers on the side of these vehicles, you would attach them to that. Frontal armor was about 101 millimeters frontal armor, so about 4 inches thick of just pure steel. When the Pershing was originally classified and came into theater, it was classified as a heavy tank, but these were easily redesignated back to a medium tank. So this is considered a medium tank. So 101 millimeters at the front. You can have about 200 to 250 on the turret, so about 6 to 8 inches of pure steel in the turret armor. Right here it is blocked off, but just like on other vehicles, we have the gunner sight would be right here. You have your coax 30 caliber machine gun right here. So again, this one will have 2 30 caliber machine guns and a 50 cal, and more if they choose to do so. This one actually has rubberized tracks. You'd have steel. You can put duck bills on these two. Another feature that made these different from the Pershing is they had different tracks, and developing into the M47 is kind of how that came to be. This one doesn't have fender markings either, other than the USA and the Superstar. But that is the front of the vehicle, you guys. With that, we're going to hop up on the turret. All right, so hopping into the turret, you guys. So right here where I'm sitting is the commander's hatch. This is where your commander would sit. You again have your vision slits here, and his periscope would be right here. In front of him sat the gunner. As we showed you, the gunner sight was there earlier in the turret. He has actually his periscope's actually in pretty good condition right here. It's a little rusted out, but this would actually be a guard that they would put up here for the periscope to cover and help protect the periscope. So that would be the periscope right here for the gunner. And then you got your loader's hatch over here. So basically what this is a Pershing turret slapped onto the M47 hull. And the only difference with this M46 Pershing turret pretty much is that you had the M3A1 90mm gun that had the bore evacuator on it, which is also how the variant of the M46A1 came out that we'd done a video on previously. You got iron bolt lifting plugs here for railroad operations, ship, anything lifting this baby up. You have your loader's periscope right here, and you have your mount for the 50 cal right here, and the barrel rest will be right here for the 50 cal. You have 2 spots here for commo. This is where your commo wires and antennas would stick out. You have a small bustle rack back here where you can hang equipment off of, spare barrels, anything like that, extra antennas, anything you would need to use for that. You also have side holds here, basically throw equipment on there, anything like that. Sometimes they throw spare track links and stuff on the side, bolt them down. Like showing an example on this side. You would throw the tracks down on that side. So that pretty much does it for the turret. With that, we're going to hop into the side. All right, so hopping into the side of the vehicle, you guys here. So now we are back into that main battle tank doctrine, or medium tank doctrine. You will see your drive wheel is up here in the front, and your drive sprocket has been moved to the back. This one actually has an example of the dust cover being on the side. So these will be hooked up right here. You will store the dust cover right here. This kind of just gave extra cover, keeping dirt and debris out. And they were mounted using these brackets and these little pin hinges right here. If you took them off, it'd basically just be exposing just this underside of the tank right here, the under wheels. So you got your, interestingly with the M46s, I don't believe these are on the M26. You have this small support wheel back here. I may be wrong, check out my other video. But you have this small support wheel back here, and then you got 3 up on the top for the track. This was a torsion bar suspension system, just like most of the later war tanks of World War II and kind of the Korean War era, Cold War era. Side stowage boxes, any equipment you want to throw in there, anything like that. This has been welded shut, but there would be the ammunition stowage hatch right there, so you can feed ammo in and out, load and unload. You got the track links put up on the side. They would just bolt those down in case they broke track or needed to replace it. And you can see these are rubberized. You also have iron lifting plugs on the side, stowage racks and bustles, all that kind of stuff. All the good things that you need to support your crew. Now, interestingly enough, with the M46, there were I don't know specifically what variants they were, but there were variants of these where to help protect against like satchel charges, C4, all that stuff, there was actually some that put roll cage on the turret. So it would be mounted from probably about this side of the gun mantlet to around to the side that was just a giant cage to help keep out basically any unwanted small arms fire, RPGs, stuff like that, because those were now becoming part of the common environment of warfare now, being into the Cold War. And there's one other variant of this that was actually meant, there were only a couple of these sent to Korea, but there were a couple used towards the end of the war, like 1953, that actually used the prototype ziat night scope that would be mounted onto the top of the gun mantlet right here, and basically it was just a giant IR spotting light that allowed the crew to see at night. They would have a little computerized system on the inside to help them see and would help them spot the enemy, especially because the Chinese were sneaky and like to try and attack at night. So that does it for the side. We're going to hop into the rear of the vehicle, you guys. All right, so hopping into the rear of the vehicle, you guys, right here obviously you have your engine deck, you have your lifting bolts and stuff to get access to the engine deck, anything like that. You have iron bolt lifting plugs here, a good old talk box for your radio where troops will sit out here and talk to the commander from inside the vehicle. There would be wires that would feed through that would go into the turret. You could talk to the crew from the outside of the vehicle. Your exhaust would come out of that rusty little ventilation spot right there, and these two ports on the side would be for ventilation and exhaust fumes as well, just especially dispense some of that air. This kind of gives that unique little difference from the M46 from the Pershing, is that these little risers here and how low the exhaust ports are to the ground, and then the center exhaust port, because the Pershing didn't have all those. You can see the line attached here that would basically help with your side fenders, keeping the fenders attached. You have your tow mount right here, your tow pencil mount right here for towing other vehicles. There's a famous picture actually in Korea of a Ripper Patton. The Ripper Patton was just how I talked about in the last video, the Ripper Sherman. They would paint a tiger on the front of these for the Chinese superstition. There's actually a famous picture of one being towed out by another during the Korean War. More iron bolt lifting plugs down here. You got your rear tracks, as I said, they were rubberized. You have your blackout markers, blackout drive here and here. And again, these fenders are not marked. You have your travel lock right here, so if you want to spin the turret around, lock it in position, it will make it easier for transporting on rail or on boat or anything like that. So that pretty much does it for the back, you guys. The engine in this bad boy was the same as the T-30, the Continental AV 1790 V12 gas twin turbine engine. That would power this baby up to about 30 miles an hour. Take no fun switch off, maybe about 35. You could probably force her up to about 35 miles an hour. So that pretty much does it for the back, you guys. Without further ado, we will hop into the close out of this video, guys. Again, M46, absolutely love this tank. Patton series is my favorite line of US tanks ever. All right, guys, well, thank you for tuning in to episode number 29 of Tank Chats. Today we took a look at, again, one of my favorite tank series lines of United States military tanks. The M46 Patton went on to go to the M47, M48, and the M60s. This will be your first version of that, and I was so excited to do one. I haven't been able to see one in a while. I know there's one back home that I have always wanted to do video on because it actually has the Ripper painting. But I saw one while I was here at Fort Jackson, so I figured, you know what, might as well do an M46 while I'm here, or another Patton in the next videos. So thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.